My daughter publicly shamed me for being a fake mom, so I stopped trying. A year later, she was begging me to save her from the man she replaced me with. When I was 32, my husband left me for his other family. Before leaving, he told our daughter Ellie, who had autism, that his other daughter was better than her and easier to deal with. That's why he was leaving. In the aftermath, Ellie broke down. She convinced herself she was worthless, began hardly speaking to me, and spent all her time alone. I tried everything: therapy, quiet evenings, her favorite video games, but nothing seemed to reach her. Then one evening, while scrolling online, I found a blog that instantly caught my attention. It was anonymous, but the stories matched Ellie perfectly. Her struggles at school, how lonely she felt, even the way she described her relationship with her mom. Reading her posts broke my heart, but the worst part was seeing how she described me: detached, uncaring, unable to listen. That night I sat awake for hours. I couldn't confront her. She would shut down completely. So instead, I came up with a plan. I created an online profile, posing as an older woman named Caroline. Caroline was compassionate, kind, wise. I started commenting on her blog posts. At first, just supportive words, gentle encouragement, telling her that her feelings were valid and that someone was always there to listen. To my surprise, Ellie responded. She poured her heart out to Caroline, sharing her fears and secrets, things she'd never said to me. Weeks passed, then months. Ellie's confidence grew. She started participating more in school, made new friends, and seemed genuinely happier. At home, she was still quiet around me, but at least I saw her smiling more often. In her blog, she openly praised Caroline, crediting her for this newfound confidence. It hurt a little, but I swallowed my pride. If Ellie was happy, that was enough. Then one evening, everything unraveled. Ellie published a post that quickly went viral at her school and our neighborhood. She openly declared Caroline to be the mother figure she'd always dreamed of. Ellie described in vivid detail how Caroline understood her in ways her real mom never could. Reading it felt like being punched. Her words painted me as distant and uncaring. Everyone we knew read it. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages. I had to talk to Ellie. The truth was painful, but surely she'd understand why I'd done it. I knocked on her door and sat beside her bed. She barely looked up, but I pushed through. I confessed everything, explained why I'd created Caroline, and how desperate I'd been to connect with her. Ellie stared at me blankly at first, processing the confession. Then her face twisted. She stood abruptly, backing away from me. She accused me of lying, manipulating, and violating her trust. Her voice rose as she told me she'd shared things with Caroline she'd never intended me to know. She screamed that I'd proven exactly why she could never trust me. Then, on her 18th birthday, she packed her things and left. She blocked me on every platform, ignored my texts, and refused all my calls. Until 1 year later, after I'd accepted she wasn't coming back to me, she called. She told me someone at college was bullying, and she desperately needed Caroline's help. Maybe I should have thought about it first, but my mother's instinct kicked in, and I drove to her campus immediately. The 3-hour drive to her campus felt both endless and too short. I rehearsed what to say, how to react, whether to hug her or keep my distance. The GPS guided me through unfamiliar streets as my mind raced with possibilities. Was she really in trouble, or was this some elaborate payback? Did she genuinely want my help, or was she setting me up for rejection again? I stopped for coffee halfway there, my hands shaking so badly I spilled some on my shirt. I didn't bother changing. Getting to Ellie was all that mattered. The campus was beautiful in the early evening light. It should have felt peaceful, but my anxiety only intensified as I parked and texted Ellie that I had arrived. When I arrived at her dorm, Ellie was waiting outside, arms wrapped tightly around herself. She looked thinner, exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. I didn't think you'd actually come, she said, not quite meeting my gaze. Of course I came, I replied, resisting the urge to pull her into a hug. You needed help. Her hair was different, shorter, with faded blue tips that hadn't been refreshed in weeks. She wore an oversized hoodie despite the warm evening, sleeves pulled down over her hands in a defensive posture I recognized from her childhood. Her skin looked pale under the harsh exterior lighting of the dormitory, making the dark circles under her eyes even more pronounced. She was thinner than I remembered, her cheekbones more prominent, her wrists looking fragile where they peeked out from her sleeves. She led me to a nearby coffee shop where we sat in awkward silence until she finally spoke. There's this guy, Tyler. We were dating, but when I tried to break it up, he started spreading rumors. Her fingers twisted nervously around her cup. He told everyone about my autism, about my meltdowns. He makes these cruel imitations of me in front of everyone. The coffee shop buzzed with typical evening activity. Students typing furiously on laptops, friends chatting over steaming mugs, baristas calling out complicated drink orders. The normalcy of the scene contrasted sharply with the tension at our small corner table. Ellie's cup of tea remained untouched, her fingers instead worrying at a loose thread on her sleeve. My blood boiled, but I kept my voice steady. Have you reported him to campus authorities? They said they need evidence. It's just my word against his. She finally looked up at me. I thought maybe Caroline could help. She always knew what to say. The words stung, but I pushed past the hurt. Ellie, Caroline was just me trying to be what you needed. Everything she would have said came from me. No, Ellie insisted, her voice hardening. Caroline listened. She understood. You just pretended. I took a deep breath. I'm here now, really listening. Tell me what you need. For a moment, I thought she might open up, but then her expression closed off. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have called you. She stood abruptly. I need to go. Ellie, please. You can't fix this, she snapped. You can't just show up after a year and expect everything to be okay. I watched helplessly as she walked away, disappearing into the crowd of students. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The campus lights faded in my rearview mirror, along with any progress I thought we'd made. Each mile marker blurred through my tears. The drive back felt twice as long as the journey there. The same roads that had earlier been filled with hope now seemed endless and desolate. Rain started falling about an hour into my drive, matching my mood perfectly. I stopped once at a gas station, mechanically filling my tank while staring blankly at the nozzle, replaying Ellie's words over and over in my mind. The cashier asked if I was okay, and I realized I must have looked as shattered as I felt. Back home, I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the ceiling. The house felt emptier than it had during the entire year Ellie was gone. At least then I'd had hope. Now I had nothing but the bitter knowledge that my daughter had deliberately manipulated me, using my own deception against me. The living room was exactly as I'd left it hours earlier. Half-prepared dinner ingredients still on the kitchen counter, mail scattered on the coffee table, a book face down on the armchair where I'd abandoned it when Ellie called. Everything looked the same, yet everything had changed. The house felt colder somehow, the silence more oppressive. I couldn't summon the energy to clean up or even move from the couch. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above me, wondering how things had gone so wrong. My phone buzzed. For a split second, my heart leapt thinking it might be Ellie. Instead, it was Dr. Martinez, Ellie's academic advisor, following up on an email I hadn't seen. I'm concerned about Ellie, he wrote. Her work showed such promise initially. This sudden change is alarming. Would you be available for a video call tomorrow? I responded immediately, agreeing to speak with him at 10 a.m. That night, I barely slept. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a message from Ellie. Nothing came. I scrolled through our recent text conversations, looking for signs I'd missed. Had she been planning this all along? Was every coffee date, every smile, every shared moment just part of her revenge? My bedroom felt cavernous and cold despite the warm spring night. I tossed and turned, tangling myself in sheets that seemed determined to trap me. Around 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep entirely and went to Ellie's room, sitting on the edge of her bed in the darkness. I ran my hand over her comforter, remembering how we picked it out together during a rare good day when she was 15. She'd been so excited about the galaxy pattern, pointing out constellations she recognized and making up stories about the ones she didn't. The next morning, Dr. Martinez's concerned face filled my computer screen. He was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Mrs. Hall, thank you for making time," he began. "I don't normally contact parents of adult students, but Ellie listed you as her emergency contact, and I'm genuinely worried." I nodded, grateful for his concern. "I visited campus yesterday. It didn't go well. I suspected as much," he sighed. "Ellie missed her morning class again today. This isn't just about academics anymore. Several professors have noticed concerning behavior changes. She's withdrawn from study groups, missed lab sessions, and her last few assignments show minimal effort." "She mentioned someone named Tyler," I said, my voice catching. "Do you know him?" Dr. Martinez's expression darkened. "Tyler Reeves. Yes, unfortunately. He was asked to leave the university last semester due to substance-related incidents. We've had several complaints about him remaining on campus and influencing current students." My stomach nodded. "What can I do? She doesn't want me involved. The university has resources, counseling services, academic support, but Ellie needs to seek them out herself." He paused. "Mrs. Hall, I hope this isn't overstepping, but Ellie mentioned once that she has autism. Our disability services office could. She won't accept help if she thinks I'm behind it," I interrupted, then immediately regretted my tone. "I'm sorry. It's just complicated. Family relationships often are." His smile was sympathetic. "I'll continue reaching out to Ellie directly. Sometimes students respond better to authority figures who aren't their parents." After our call ended, I sat staring at my blank screen, feeling helpless. I couldn't force Ellie to make better choices. I couldn't make her talk to me. All I could do was wait and worry. The waiting was excruciating. I tried to distract myself with work, taking on extra projects and volunteering for committees I'd previously avoided. My colleagues noticed the change but attributed it to empty nest syndrome, a simplified explanation I didn't bother correcting. At night, I'd clean obsessively, reorganizing closets and cabinets that didn't need organizing, scrubbing floors that were already spotless. Physical exhaustion was the only thing that helped me sleep. I checked Ellie's blog daily, hoping for some update or insight into her life, but it remained dormant. Her social media accounts were either private or inactive. It was as if she disappeared completely, leaving no digital footprint for me to follow. I considered driving back to campus just to check on her from a distance, but feared that would only push her further away if she spotted me. 3 days passed with no word from Ellie. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office to avoid coming home to an empty house. On the 4th day, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Is this Ellie's mom?" A female voice, young and hesitant. "Yes, this is she. Who's calling?" "It's Jade, Ellie's roommate." She sounded nervous. "Look, I probably shouldn't be calling you, but I'm really worried about Ellie." I sat up straighter. "What's happened?" "She hasn't been back to our room in 2 days. She's not answering texts. Her stuff is still here, but..." Jade trailed off. "Tyler's been bragging about how they're staying at some apartment off campus. His friend Damon's place. It's not a good scene there." My heart raced. "Do you have the address?" "No, but I know it's in Westlake Heights. That's all I could get." She paused. "Please don't tell Ellie I called you. She already hates me for trying to warn her about Tyler." "I won't say anything," I promised. "Thank you for calling, Jade." Westlake Heights was a rundown apartment complex about 15 minutes from campus. I'd driven past it before, a collection of dilapidated buildings with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. The thought of Ellie staying there made my blood run cold. I remembered Westlake Heights from my brief campus tour when Ellie was first considering this university. We'd taken a wrong turn and ended up driving through the neighborhood by accident. Ellie had pressed her face against the car window, watching wide-eyed as we passed the crumbling apartment buildings. "People actually live there?" she'd asked, and I'd mumbled something about affordable housing options while quickly turning the car around. Now the thought of my daughter in one of those apartments made my stomach churn. I considered calling the police but quickly dismissed the idea. Ellie was an adult. She wasn't missing. She was making poor choices. Involving authorities would only push her further away. Instead, I drove to Westlake Heights that evening, parking my car a block away. I had no plan beyond somehow finding Damon's apartment and checking on Ellie. It was reckless, probably dangerous, but maternal instinct overrode common sense. The complex was worse up close. Trash littered the courtyard, and the stench of urine permeated the air. Music blasted from several units, competing with shouting matches and crying babies. I walked through the courtyard, scanning windows for any sign of Ellie. The smell hit me first, a nauseating combination of garbage, marijuana, and something chemical I couldn't identify. Broken glass crunched under my shoes as I navigated around overflowing dumpsters and abandoned shopping carts. A group of men huddled near the building entrance eyed me suspiciously, their conversation stopping abruptly as I approached. I clutched my purse tighter, heart hammering in my chest, and tried to look like I belonged there. The courtyard was dimly lit, with several security lights either broken or flickering ominously. A skinny cat darted between buildings, disappearing into the shadows. From somewhere nearby, I heard glass breaking followed by raucous laughter. A baby cried from an upper-floor apartment, the sound mixing with thumping bass from multiple competing stereos. "You lost, lady?" A voice startled me. I turned to find a young man watching me from a stairwell, cigarette dangling from his lips. He couldn't have been much older than Ellie. "I'm looking for someone," I said, trying to sound confident. "My daughter might be staying with a friend named Damon." The man's eyebrows rose. "Damon Harris? 3rd floor? End unit." He smirked. "Your daughter hanging with Damon's crew? That's rough." "Thank you," I muttered, heading toward the stairs. The stairwell smelled of urine and stale beer, with graffiti covering nearly every surface. I kept my hand on the railing despite its stickiness, afraid of tripping in the poor lighting. Each step creaked ominously beneath my weight. On the 2nd floor landing, I had to step over a passed-out man, his arm covered in track marks. My heart raced faster. Was this the environment Ellie had chosen over home? As I approached the 3rd floor apartment, the bass from inside vibrated through the walkway. I hesitated, then knocked firmly. No response. I knocked again, louder. The door swung open, revealing a tall guy with bloodshot eyes and a patchy beard. "Yeah? I'm looking for Ellie," I said, trying to peer past him into the apartment. He looked me up and down. "Who's asking?" "Her mother." His expression shifted from suspicion to amusement. "Yo, Tyler. Someone's mommy is here." My heart sank as Tyler appeared behind him, recognition dawning on his face. "Seriously? You followed her here?" He turned back toward the apartment. "Ellie, your stalker mom found you." Ellie emerged from a back room, her face paling when she saw me. She looked terrible. Unwashed hair, dark circles under her eyes, wearing the same clothes from days ago. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, pushing past Tyler to confront me in the doorway. Behind her, I caught glimpses of the apartment. Pizza boxes stacked on every surface, empty bottles littering the floor, a haze of smoke hanging in the air. The smell of marijuana was overwhelming, mixed with body odor and something chemical that made my nose burn. On a coffee table, I spotted what looked like substance paraphernalia, hastily covered with a magazine when the door opened. "Jade said you haven't been back to your dorm." I was worried. "Jade?" Her eyes narrowed. "She had no right to call you." "Ellie, please, just come talk to me outside for 5 minutes." Tyler snorted. "Don't bother, babe. She'll just try to drag you back to your perfect little life." Ellie glanced between us, conflict evident on her face. Finally, she stepped outside, closing the door behind her. 5 minutes, she said coldly. We moved to the stairwell landing. Up close, I could see how exhausted she looked. "Have you been to any classes this week?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Is that really what you came here to ask?" I took a deep breath. "I came because I'm worried about you. This place isn't safe, Ellie. It's fine. Tyler's friends are looking out for me." Her skin had a grayish tinge under the harsh stairwell lighting. disgusting. A small rash had broken out along her jawline, likely a reaction to stress or poor hygiene. Her fingernails, usually kept meticulously trimmed due to sensory issues, were ragged and bitten to the quick. She kept shifting her weight from foot to foot, unable to stand still. A nervous habit I hadn't seen since her early teens. Like they're looking out for Tyler? I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. He was kicked out of school, Ellie. He's dealing substances. You don't know anything about him, she snapped. He accepts me for who I am. He doesn't try to fix me or pretend to be someone else to manipulate me. The accusation stung, but I pushed forward. Doctor, Martinez called me. You're about to fail out of college. So what? Maybe college isn't for me. This isn't you talking, I said, reaching for her arm. The Ellie I know wouldn't throw away her education for some guy she just met. She jerked away from my touch. The Ellie you know? You don't know me at all. You never have. Her voice rose. You created a fake person because you couldn't deal with the real me. That's not true, I protested. I created Caroline because I wasn't good enough as I was, she shouted. Just like Dad said. The mention of her father silenced me. Behind her anger, I glimpsed the wounded child still carrying his cruel words. Your father was wrong, I said quietly. And if I ever made you feel that way too, I'm truly sorry. Something flickered in her eyes. Vulnerability quickly masked by defiance. Your 5 minutes are up. Ellie, please. Just come back to the dorm. We can figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. She turned away. Go home, Mom. She disappeared back into the apartment, leaving me alone on the landing. I stood there for several minutes, debating whether to knock again. Eventually, I walked back to my car, defeat weighing heavily on my shoulders. The walk back to my car felt endless. Every shadow made me jump. Every sound had me looking over my shoulder. The same group of men still loitered near the entrance, watching me with increased interest now that they'd seen my confrontation with Ellie. One called out something crude that I pretended not to hear, quickening my pace until I reached my car. Once inside with the doors locked, I finally allowed myself to break down. Sobs racked my body as I gripped the steering wheel, my forehead pressed against it. The image of Ellie in that filthy apartment, surrounded by people who clearly didn't care about her well-being, was unbearable. How had we ended up here? How had my bright, sensitive daughter fallen in with people who would only drag her down? The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove straight to the university's counseling center. I couldn't force Ellie to get help, but I could arm myself with information. The counselor I spoke with, Bethany, listened sympathetically as I explained the situation. Unfortunately, we can't discuss specific students without their consent, she explained, but I can tell you about our resources and how parents can support students in crisis. Bethany's office was warm and inviting, walls painted a soft sage green, comfortable chairs arranged to create a sense of safety, plants thriving on every available surface. She was about my age, with a calm demeanor that immediately put me at ease. As she spoke, she took notes on a yellow legal pad, occasionally nodding to encourage me to continue when my voice faltered. I left with pamphlets on substance abuse, autism support services, and mental health resources. Bethany also suggested I attend a parent support group that met weekly on campus. It wasn't much, but it was something. On my way out, I literally bumped into Jade coming in. Mrs. Hall. She looked surprised. What are you doing here? Just getting some information, I said vaguely. Have you seen Ellie? Jade nodded. She came back this morning to shower and grab some clothes. She seemed different, jumpy. When I asked if she was okay, she snapped at me. My concern deepened. Did she say if she was going back to that apartment? No, but Jade hesitated. She took a lot of stuff, like she's not planning to come back anytime soon. I thanked Jade and headed to my car, my mind racing. As I reached for my keys, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mom, it's me, using Tyler's phone. Need to talk. Meet me at Brood Awakening at 3. Relief flooded through me. I texted back immediately. I'll be there. I arrived at the coffee shop 30 minutes early, claiming a corner table. At exactly 3 o'clock, Ellie walked in. She looked marginally better than yesterday. Clean clothes, hair pulled back, but still exhausted. She sat down without ordering. I need money. The blunt request caught me off guard. What? Tyler and I are getting our own place. I need first and last month's rent plus deposit. I stared at her. Ellie, you can't be serious. Completely serious. Her expression was flat. I'm not going back to the dorm, and Damon's place is too crowded. What about your classes? Your scholarship? She shrugged. I'll figure it out later. Number. The word came out more forcefully than I intended. I won't fund this, Ellie. I won't help you throw your life away. Her eyes narrowed. Fine. I'll get the money somewhere else. What does that mean? Tyler knows people. They've offered me jobs. A chill ran through me. What kind of jobs? She didn't answer. Just stared at me defiantly. Ellie, please. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Come home. Just for a weekend. We can talk about options that don't involve dropping out or living with Tyler. The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon activity around us. Students studying, friends chatting, baristas calling out orders. The normalcy of the scene contrasted sharply with the tension at our table. Ellie's untouched water glass left a ring of condensation on the wooden tabletop. A group of laughing students at a nearby table glanced our way, then quickly looked away when they noticed the intensity of our conversation. There's nothing to talk about. She stood up. I thought you might actually help me for once, but I guess I was wrong. I am trying to help you, I said, my voice rising. This isn't helping. Other customers turned to stare. Ellie's face flushed with embarrassment. Just leave me alone, she hissed. You're making everything worse, like always. She stormed out, leaving me sitting alone, fighting back tears. The barista gave me a sympathetic look as I gathered my things to leave. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining worst-case scenarios. Ellie getting arrested, Ellie overdosing, Ellie disappearing completely. Around 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop. I hesitated, then logged into the Caroline account one last time. I didn't expect to find anything. Ellie had made it clear she was done with Caroline too, but I needed to check. To my surprise, there was a new message from Ellie sent just hours ago. I don't know if you're still reading these, Mom. I know I said I was done with Caroline, but I need to talk to someone who understands. Tyler's not who I thought he was. He's been pressuring me to do things I don't want to do. I'm scared, but I can't come home and admit you were right. I just can't. My hands shook as I read the message again. I wanted to respond immediately, but I forced myself to think carefully. If I responded as Caroline, I'd be perpetuating the lie all over again. If I responded as myself, Ellie might see it as another violation of her privacy. After an hour of deliberation, I wrote back as myself. Ellie, it's Mom. I check this account sometimes out of habit. I'm not trying to invade your privacy. If you're in trouble, please call me. No judgment. No, I told you so. I just want you safe. I love you. I hit send, then closed my laptop, not expecting a response. To my shock, my phone rang less than 5 minutes later. Mom? Ellie's voice was small, frightened. I'm here, honey. What's wrong? Can you come get me? Please? She was crying now. I'm at the gas station on Elm Street, the one near Westlake. I'm on my way, I said, already grabbing my keys. Stay inside where it's safe. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I drove well over the speed limit, reaching the gas station in 15 minutes. Ellie was huddled by the entrance, a small backpack clutched to her chest. When she saw my car, she ran toward it, practically diving into the passenger seat. Go, she urged. Please just go. I pulled away quickly, glancing in my rearview mirror. Are you being followed? She shook her head. I don't think so. Tyler passed out. I had to get out of there. In the glow of passing streetlights, I could see a bruise forming on her cheek. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Did he hit you? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Ellie touched her face self-consciously. It was an accident. He was high and stumbling around. I got in the way. I didn't believe that for a second, but I bit my tongue. Getting Ellie home safely was the priority. Confronting Tyler could come later. We drove in silence for several minutes. Finally, Ellie spoke. I'm sorry. For what? Everything. Her voice cracked. Using Caroline against you. saying those horrible things, messing up school. We can fix the school part, I said gently. Dr. Martinez seems understanding. As for the rest, we'll work on it. She nodded, staring out the window. I can't go back to the dorm. Jade hates me now, and Tyler knows where I live. You'll stay with me, I said firmly. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. When we got home, Ellie went straight to her old bedroom. I made her tea and a sandwich, which she barely touched before falling asleep, still fully clothed on top of her covers. I gently removed her shoes and pulled a blanket over her, then sat in the chair by her bed, watching her sleep like I used to when she was little. The next morning, Ellie emerged around noon, looking sheepish. She'd showered and changed into old clothes she'd left behind. How are you feeling? I asked, sliding a plate of pancakes toward her. Embarrassed. Stupid. She sat down, poking at the food. I don't even know how to start fixing this mess. One step at a time, I said. First, let's call Dr. Martinez. Then maybe visit the counseling center. She nodded, then looked up at me. Why are you helping me after everything I did? Because I'm your mother, I said simply. That doesn't stop, even when things get hard. Ellie's eyes filled with tears. I was so awful to you. Yes, you were, I agreed, not sugarcoating it. And we'll need to talk about that. But right now, let's focus on getting you back on track. Dr. Martinez was surprisingly accommodating. He arranged for Ellie to meet with each of her professors to discuss making up missed work. The Disability Services Office set up accommodations that should have been in place from the beginning. Slowly, Ellie began rebuilding her academic standing. Things at home were tense but improving. We established boundaries. I promised not to check her messages or track her whereabouts, and she promised to be honest about where she was going and who she was with. We started seeing a family therapist, Dr. Winters, who specialized in autism and family dynamics. 2 weeks after Ellie came home, Tyler started calling. At first, she ignored him, but the calls became more frequent, more insistent. Then he started showing up on campus, trying to intercept her between classes. He says he's changed, Ellie told me one evening, that he misses me. And what do you think? I asked carefully. She sighed. I think. I liked how he made me feel at first. Special. Understood. But now I see he was just using me. I nodded, relieved by her insight. That's a hard lesson to learn. He keeps saying he'll tell everyone about Caroline if I don't come back, she admitted quietly. About how you pretended to be someone else. My stomach dropped. That's blackmail, Ellie. I know. She twisted her hands together. I told him it doesn't matter. That people already know. But he says he'll make it sound worse than it was. Make you look crazy. I took a deep breath. Let him try. We know the truth. But Tyler's threats escalated. He started posting vague comments on social media about Ellie and her psycho mom. He showed up at our house one night, pounding on the door until a neighbor threatened to call the police. The final straw came when Ellie's academic advisor called to tell me Tyler had emailed the entire psychology department with allegations that I was mentally abusing Ellie by creating fake online personas to manipulate her. This has gone too far, I told Ellie that night. We need to consider getting a restraining order. She nodded, looking exhausted. I just want him to leave us alone. The next day, we met with a lawyer who specialized in harassment cases. As we explained the situation, I watched Ellie grow increasingly uncomfortable. There's something else, she finally admitted. Something I haven't told you. My heart sank. What is it? When I was staying with Tyler, I let him take pictures of me, her face flushed with shame. Nothing explicit, but private. He's threatening to post them online. The lawyer's expression turned grave. That's revenge porn. It's illegal in this state. I didn't want to tell you, Ellie whispered, not meeting my eyes. I was so stupid. I took her hand. You're not stupid. You were manipulated by someone who knew exactly what he was doing. With the lawyer's help, we filed for a restraining order and sent Tyler a cease and desist letter regarding the photos. For a few days, everything was quiet. I dared to hope he'd gotten the message. Then one evening, Ellie received a text from an unknown number. Check your email. She opened her university email to find a message had been sent to her entire class list, containing screenshots of her blog posts about Caroline, along with commentary painting me as an abusive, controlling mother who created fake friends for her autistic daughter. Ellie collapsed into tears. Everyone will see this. Everyone will know. I hugged her tightly. We'll get through this. Together. The next day was brutal. Ellie received dozens of messages from classmates. Some were supportive, others morbidly curious, a few outright cruel. She wanted to hide, to drop out again, but I encouraged her to face it head on. The truth is complicated, I told her. People who matter will understand that. To my surprise, Jade showed up at our door that afternoon. I got the email, she said when Ellie answered. I wanted to check on you. Ellie burst into tears, and Jade hugged her awkwardly. Tyler's an A's, she said firmly. Nobody believes anything he says. It wasn't entirely true. Plenty of people believe the worst, but Jade's support meant everything to Ellie. They spent the evening talking in Ellie's room while I made dinner and tried not to eavesdrop. Later that night, after Jade left, Ellie joined me on the couch. I've been thinking, she said hesitantly, about everything that happened. With Dad, with Caroline, with Tyler. I waited, giving her space to continue. I was so angry at you for creating Caroline, she said, but I think I understand now. You were trying to reach me the only way you could. I nodded, throat tight with emotion. And then I used Caroline to hurt you, she continued. I wanted you to feel as betrayed as I felt. I did, I admitted. It worked. She winced. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, I said, for the deception, for not finding a better way. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our shared mistakes hanging between us. Dr. Winters says we both need to forgive ourselves, Ellie said finally. That's the hardest part. I smiled sadly. She's right about that. Ellie leaned her head against my shoulder, a gesture so simple yet so profound after everything we'd been through. I don't hate you, Mom. I never really did. I know, honey, I whispered, kissing the top of her head. I know.